Disclaimer. This episode discusses real-life cases involving violence, murder, and sensitive content. Listeners' discretion is advised. Some details may be disturbing, especially for younger audiences. Please proceed with caution. Welcome to the second episode of Chai and Crime, where we sip chai and spill some of the most spine-chilling Desi true crime stories. I'm Mariam Nadeem.
And I'm Najwa Waleed. And we have our co-hosts with us, Momina Bhatti and Fiza Kashif. Today's case is as twisted as it gets. It's the tale of Cyanide Mallika, India's first convicted female serial killer.
Honestly, it's got all the Desi drama that you could want. Trust, religion, betrayal, all wrapped up in one. And spoiler alert, no, she's not a mysterious goddess or anything. She's just a woman using faith to take lives. Yeah, that's what we're dealing with today.
Kempamma was born in 1970 in a very low-income family that belonged to Bangalore. So ये बहुत religious family थी जैसे usually villages में होती है. So अगर हम Indian culture की बात करें तो it's very common कि villages में आपकी teenagers में शादी हो जाती है. तो Kempamma के साथ भी यही हुआ कि she was a teenager and then she was married off to a tailor. Soon she became a mother of 3. But यहाँ पे this is where we get a hint of her personal problems. She was never satisfied with her life. She always had this urge of, getting more than she already had. Or उसकी बहुत materialistic किस्म की approach थी and she always wanted more. तो इसी के लिए she started a chit fund जो कि commonly known as committees पाकिस्तान और इंडिया में. तो ये क्या होता था क्योंकि ये बेंगलोर में ही रहती थी तो जितने भी surrounding villages थे या अपने village में भी different families से she started taking money as committees और ये सारा कुछ. But problem ये था कि she started using that for her own stuff. तो क्योंकि इतने ज़्यादा डेट्स बढ़ रहे थे एवरीथिंग सो उनकी पूरी फैमिली ऑफ 5 जो थी दे हैड अ लॉट ऑफ लोन्स. तो इन अ फिट ऑफ एंगर जो उसके हस्बैंड है ही थ्रू हर आउट ऑफ द हाउस. To survive, she took on a series of odd jobs working as a maid and also as an assistant at the goldsmith. So fascination with wealth turned into her obsession and soon after that she started stealing. वो जहाँ पे as a maid काम कर रही थी वहाँ पे भी उनको कोई अच्छी चीज़ लगती थी she would take that and then the same went on with the number of jobs she was doing. So in 1998, she was finally caught of stealing and then she spent the next 6 months behind bars. Lekin the prison didn't even change her, they only gave her time to plan. Jail se nikalne ke baad, she had a killer idea of how she's going to become rich.
Okay, so her victims, they were often elderly women facing life's toughest struggles, like women with asthma or a 59-year-old woman. Well, that was one of her victims who had a missing child that she was searching for. So clearly she was going after pretty vulnerable elderly people. Her first victim was a wealthy 30-year-old woman and she was living in the outskirts of Bangalore. Kempamma knew exactly where to find these women. She visited local temples every day, quietly observing all the regulars that were visiting there. She targeted women who seemed emotionally vulnerable, those who were grieving, desperate for answers, or in need of some kind of spiritual healing. And these were women dealing with profound loss, family troubles, or even issues like infertility. She blended in effortlessly. She posed as a devout, religious, compassionate person. And over time, she gained their trust. She had gentle words of comfort and advice that she used to do this. With patience, empathy, and careful observation, she identified her targets and she would groom them. So her method, it was a mandala puja. She promised would solve all of their problems. She'd ask them to wear their most precious clothes and jewelry for the ceremony, invite them to a temple on the outskirts, to a place which they didn't know. And once they were there, she'd ask them to close their eyes and pray. And when they did, it would be their last prayer. Kempamma would serve them cyanide-laced water, disguised as holy water. And that was her twisted routine.
Disturbing. It is. उसके बाद ये हुआ कि after her first murder, which took place in I think 2000, she was gone for 7 years. किसी को नहीं पता वो कहाँ थी. She just vanished from the scene. But यहाँ पे कुछ claims हैं. We couldn't find exact information on this. Some people claim कि उसने कोई murders नहीं किए थे and she went underground or something. But some claim कि she did carry out all of this because वो different temples को target करती थी और उस हिसाब से सारा कुछ होता था. But this whole scenario remains a mystery. But in 2007, she went on a killing spree. In 3 months में she killed 5 victims and all were elderly women. So after the killing spree, a court case was brought into light. A Bengaluru resident named Renuka, she was found dead in her guest house. ये वाला case was not linked to the cyanide killer, but it was relevant because यहाँ की जो killer थी, जो suspected basically killer थी, that was also a woman. और उनका नाम जो था, that was Jayama. So later investigation showed that Kempamma is the same person who killed this resident, and then that is how she was caught. Now moving on to this famous nickname Cyanide Mallika, that is the name she told her last victim in 2012. And after that, she was caught because they found some recordings and some cases. Well, there were no eyewitnesses, but through CCTV footages of different temples, they were finally able to capture her. और ये different pieces जो उनको over time पुलिस को मिलते रहते because it's like what it's like.
She gave her last victim Cyanide Mallika. उसने बताया था कि मेरा नाम मल्लिका है उसको.
नहीं, उसने यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है और she introduced herself. उसने Cyanide Mallika पूरा नाम introduce कराया.
Cyanide.
Yeah, she
power है ना,
power
powerful
queen. She's declaring herself some power.
Yeah, so that is like power now.
Yeah, so like probably around like 6 years.
Yeah, around 6 years, 6-7 years. उनको जितनी भी information मिली थी and all the clues and everything.
Yeah.
उनको जब
it was quite a long case.
Yeah, so that is which duration of 6 to 7 years. That is how the police caught her because different cases में उनको different clues मिलते थे और इंसानों को piece करने के बाद they were able to piece together the whole puzzle, and that is what led to the eventual arrest and conviction.
Okay, so the trial. When we came to the trial, it was quite intense, and there was a lot of evidence against her. And of course, like, I mean, at that point, because it's camera and footage and security footage, like, you can't deny it, right? So police believe Kempamma had killed at least 6 women, and obviously there's speculation that there could be more that were not immediately linked to her. So this case also brought light to the terrifying reality that someone so seemingly harmless, like posing as a devout spiritual woman, like they could be behind such heinous acts. And in 2012, Kempamma was sentenced to death. In 2012, Kempamma was sentenced to death, making history as the first person in Karnataka to receive the death penalty. But in a surprising twist, her sentence was later commuted to life imprisonment. This move sparked major controversy, of course, and heated debates. Many felt that her crimes were heinous enough to warrant the death penalty, while others questioned the fairness of her sentencing, especially given the complexity surrounding her as a female serial killer. And I think what makes her case so fascinating and terrifying, it kind of maybe is the fact that she was a woman, which led to widespread discussions about gender and crime. I mean, female serial killers, they're quite rare. And Kempamma's actions force people to confront the idea that women too can be capable of such extreme cruelty, especially within the subcontinent. I mean, you will see a lot of males committing crimes, but it's very rarely that, like, I mean, it's quite rare that you would find a female suspect, right?
Rare.
So Kempamma's case also shocked the public, especially because, as we discussed, she didn't fit the typical profile of a
Gender
criminal.
roles को.
And on top
Yeah.
of that, I think female serial killers जो होती हैं, they're often overlooked because एक बहुत पुराना English case था, Jack the Ripper वाला जो मर्डर था, उसमें it was a theory कि maybe it was a woman, and the whole time people were looking for a man, but in fact it was a woman. That is why she was able to go like completely
And there's
underground.
even, I
किसी को
mean,
पता नहीं चला.
within the US, sort of like there are similar cases to this. And usually there are people like nurses. I can't remember the exact name of the serial killer, but there was a nurse that would use, like, again, like similarly, I think poison or something, which she would inject either through injections or through IV drips. And she killed a lot of people like that. So that's quite similar. But as like we were discussing, like in India, in the subcontinent, in Desi culture, it's very rare to see
Female killers.
something like that.
Because हमने perceptions बनाए हुए हैं ना
Yeah.
कि जो females हैं they are nurturing और maternal होती है उस तरह की crimes कर ही नहीं सकते.
But that is the most disturbing thing about this, because that is what she used. That perception is what she used
Yeah,
to
that
get to her.
manipulation
Exactly.
थी.
She was so manipulative.
Yeah.
Obviously, since she had no mental health problems, it was just clear that she had some personal issues. Greed.
I mean,
Personal issues से ज़्यादा I think it's about materialism and
Her greed
because
led her.
वो आपका ख़त्म नहीं होता ना. You always want more. It's never enough.
I feel like it also brings into, I mean, we could say that she doesn't have mental health problems, but I mean, you have to be some level of, like, mentally unwell to do something like that. And for me, it also sort of brings into question like your upbringing. Like we, in a lot of these cases, there's not a lot of public information about the killers and stuff, so we don't know what their upbringings are like. But I mean, she was married off as a teenager. It's normal in the subcontinent, but you're not fully developed. True. And her marriage was not a smooth one. She wasn't always happy. Like, they were going through tough times. It's not easy for, I mean, we as like, for like adult females, we can't imagine having 3 kids and like dealing with all of that even at our ages. So imagine a teenager going through all that. Like, it has to mess you up a little bit, right?
Was
like
a responsibility at a young age.
Yeah.
And so like these kind of traumas, they can sort of contribute to, I mean, scientifically there's a lot of evidence that they can contribute to like mental instabilities. Obviously it doesn't excuse it. I mean, like I said, there's so many cases of teenage marriage. Like, all of us would know at least 2 people that were married as teenagers, right? And they didn't go around like killing people regardless of how difficult it was. So you can't justify it, but it is sort of an interesting way to look into things that could have contributed to like why did she end up this way. Like, it's fascinating to think about what makes a killer.
So to add on, I think एक और चीज़ भी यहाँ पे है कि if you look at her victims, सारी women थी and they're from wealthy backgrounds and you know वो elitist आपकी यहाँ पे वो elite आपने segment of the society को यहाँ पे target किया हुआ है. तो I feel अगर हम background को देखें तो उनका background was from a very low income family, right? Living in a village. So I feel वो यहाँ पे ये वाली बात भी आ जाती है कि maybe all her life she felt cornered. Or well, I'm not justifying it, but that is a problem in our society in India and in Pakistan as well, कि हमारा classes system है और हमारा attitude भी differ करता है with power and with money.
Yeah.
So that makes sense कि अगर उनको बहुत ज़्यादा corner किया गया था throughout their life.
Especially within the caste system.
Yeah, exactly. So as a revenge, उनके victims जो थे that were all, you know, wealthy women. ताकि वो एक sort of revenge हो सके of all the hurt that they have caused and all the you know feeling of inferiority and all those complexes. So I think that's also maybe that was a way of her tackling all those insecurities and the complexes that she had.
That had to play a part in it.
But that again doesn't justify
of course
इतने सारे you know murders कर लो. It doesn't make sense.
I feel like nothing. I mean, you can't justify anything.
I mean, there's a whole like subject. There's a field of study called criminal psychology. You can never actually pinpoint what makes a killer या what makes a criminal. There's always like ये बहुत subjective होती है ये चीज़. हर इंसान के motives different होते हैं. हर इंसान की जैसे अब इसके लिए क्या नाम है इसका?
Kempamma.
अब जैसे Kempamma के लिए all she wanted was money. That's all she was after and she was like willing to stop at no cost. उसको ये भी नहीं पता था कि वो बेचारी बूढ़ी खातून मतलब खवातीन जो होती थी जो who had been through so much and who were actually struggling mentally, उसको ये भी नहीं होता था कि मैं इनको you know I should leave them alone. It was like मुझे पैसे चाहिए मुझे. और दूसरा ये कि she was proud of the name that she told her last victim.
It's like
she was proud of
clearly a psychopath. Like everything. She has no empathy. It points towards a psychopath, right? Like, I mean, obviously we can't formally diagnose anyone with anything, but there's the signs are all there, right?
Exactly.
And like you were saying, money. But I feel like the biggest thing is power.
Yeah,
because I mean, with money, she could have stopped at some point. Like, she could have quit while she was ahead. She had enough. She had stolen enough. Exactly.
Greed खत्म तो नहीं होती ना. It's always because वो जो the puja that you talked about, वो जो mandala puja, उसमें basically क्या था कि वो after they would you know close their eyes and start praying and whatever, तो वो उनकी कपड़े भी ले लेती थी और उससे सारी jewelry भी, and she would tell them beforehand कि जब आपने ये वाला काम करना है तो you should be you know wearing all the best clothes that you have, the most expensive jewelry and everything. वो सब आपने पहन के आना है, because that was a brilliant way of you know taking all of that. And then क्योंकि gold है, it's
she was clearly very smart too.
So वो सारी चीजें लेके, and then it's all about, I think it's all about money and it's about greed, because it doesn't end. Materialism खत्म नहीं होता, greed भी खत्म नहीं होती. It's never enough because you just need to you know जो भी है you want more.
Maybe it was also the power that came along when she was seen as a religious figure. She used religion का role यहाँ पे बहुत efficiently.
Yeah, and like using that as a segue, it also calls into sort of like the fact that people were so ready to sort of accept her.
When it comes
like,
to religion ना तो लोग
yeah.
मतलब they don't have second thoughts. Like religion में ये है वो
It's
क्या
like blindly following
क्या बात
her.
बता रही थी कि जिसमें you know there was this place जहाँ पे एक बंदा था जिसने दरख्त को हाथ लगा के तो अपना he touched his head.
Yeah. 2-3 दफा उसने ना बस ऐसे ही वॉल को टच करके and he touched his chest and head. और फिर काफी ज्यादा लोगों ने उसको मॉनिटर किया and they started doing the same. That's how fast India में religion पे बिलीव ज्यादा करते हैं, सुपरस्टिशंस काफी ज्यादा
पाकिस्तान में भी और इधर भी, बिकॉज अगर कोई भी रिलीजन कार्ड यूज करता है तो हम उसको क्वेश्चन नहीं करते बिकॉज रिलीजन पे कौन झूठ बोलेगा.
वो फौरन से ब्लास्फेमी केसेस बन जाते हैं
बहुत जल्दी.
वो तो एक अलग बात है ना कि वो हो जाता है,
इसको बहुत गलत तरीके से भी इंटरप्रेट
Exactly.
यूज इट फॉर ऑल द रॉन्ग रीजंस एज वेल.
वही like Najwa की बात के it's religion is sort of the final, you know, the end all be all basically. Like you can't. It's hard for people to question it.
Safest option है कि बस
Exactly. यहाँ पे तो है.
Accountability नहीं है because you know it's very subjective and it's a very personal matter. कि आप किसी के religion को वो नहीं कह सकते जो भी freedom of expression की अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं.
Exactly. So I mean that also like the fact that a lot of people, I mean यहाँ पे critical thinking isn't always encouraged. Like the example that Maryam was giving, I mean there was no necessary like. There was no logic behind them following that man. Just with like he didn't give any explanation. They're just looking at him,
They're
right?
just observing him.
They're just observing him. So like these kind of things, it's quite dangerous, and it also sort of brings into like the fact that she got away with this stuff for 6
she was so
years.
Smart. और ये भी बात करते हैं how she like paid the feminine card and got away with murder.
She was so smart about it. Like about all of it. Like she was manipulative from the beginning to the end. Like her plans were pretty like
clear.
You know, they were well thought out. She knew, and she had her MO. She followed it throughout, like with every victim. And like Najwa was mentioning, like she gave herself that name.
Yeah. She wanted that power. She wanted to feel something.
That's why I feel like it's more. I'm leaning towards like the power theory.
Me too, I agree.
A little bit more than the greed
she
theory.
She enjoyed manipulating those women who were like feeling very low or वो अपने worst time पे थे.
Yeah, like it was like
it was not just greed. She enjoyed that power.
There has to be something, right? And like we were talking about the caste systems and stuff in India, like they're so strict. Like यहाँ पे we have class divides and stuff, but it's not like oh you can't like you know talk to each other or touch each other. In some super orthodox areas of India, like that's followed quite strictly. So I feel like it was a way of sort of regaining that power or claiming that power rather than regaining. Sorry.
She was jealous of them too.
Probably.
As we wrap up, Kempamma's story serves a stark reminder of how deeply cultural factors like religion and blind trust can be exploited by individuals with malicious intent. Perhaps it forces us to think how much trust we should place in others, especially when we're at our most vulnerable.
And that was the disturbing case of Cyanide Mallika, a woman who weaponized faith and trust in the most horrifying way.
So that is all the information we have for you in this case. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Follow us at the Ray Chai and Crime Podcast on our socials for case updates. If you have a case you'd like to hear about, DM us on Instagram.